Members of the board, let's take our seats so we can get underway here.
Sorry.
Okay, Carrie, you're ready? Okay. That's okay. All right. Excuse the delay. We were just a few technical difficulties. The September Sedona Fire District Governing Board meeting is now in session, so please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence.
We've had 9 firefighters and 21 police officers lost in the line of duty since our last meeting.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, first order of business this evening is the motion to go into executive session. So I'll go ahead and make the motion to go into executive session on personal matters pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1 in regards to the fire chief's evaluation and legal advice pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3 and instructions to attorney pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A4 regarding the same. In addition, we'll also be going into executive session for legal advice pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3 and possible instructions to legal counsel pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A4 in regards to the Sedona Fire District lease with Sedona Oak Creek Airport Authority. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are now, the motion is approved and we are now in executive session. Okay, we are back in public session, reconvening in public session, and I'd like to thank the chief for the executive session and our discussions. With that said, I'd like to make a motion to approve the fire chief's annual evaluation, and it also that it be placed into his personal file. Do I have a second for that?
You got a second.
Okay. Any further discussion on that anybody would like to add? At this point, Chief, I want to thank you for a job well done this first year. I think a lot of the goals that you set for yourself, you met. Some that are just beyond reach that we're working on as we speak at this very moment. But thank you for the job. Thank you for this putting together a staff that allows you to make those decisions that you've made. And it's made our job just a little bit easier. But nonetheless, still involved. So thank you, and meeting with all of us as you have over this past year. So with that said, is there anybody else who would like to make a comment?
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of your eval, just so it's more known, we evaluate you in 4 areas, all very important: operational, fiscal management, of course, connection with the community and board, and strategic planning. And I just want to say that you've done an exemplary job in all 4 of those areas.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Joy?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for coming on board with Sedona Fire District. You have exceeded all of our expectations, and especially during this time of COVID, you've really kept us together as a cohesive unit, and at the same time protected the public and all of our visitors, and we couldn't have asked for a better chief, so thank you very much.
Gene or Al?
Quite simply, I'm honored to be on the board with you in command as the fire chief, and I've learned a lot, and I learn a lot by paying attention to how you do your job relative to the complex jobs that everybody else in the district has. So, bravo, year 1. Let's go for year 2.
And Gene?
But the people who are out there listening in the public, you are very, very fortunate to have this man, our fire chief, and time really flies by, doesn't it, Chief? Time has flown by and what have you, and we have had an opportunity to see and to enjoy a leader who really knows how to lead. And I appreciate you, as the board has already expressed. And I just want the public to know how fortunate they are to have a fire chief in this community like John Troutwine.
Thank you, Gene. Okay, with that said, the motion has been stated, it has been seconded, additional input has been addressed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is passed. Congratulations, Chief, and thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Mr. Chair, Board, first of all, thank you so much for your gracious input, and then I do really appreciate the opportunity to serve with each and every one of you. So thank you for this opportunity to serve. I do appreciate it, and we have great staff and great firefighters here, so it makes my job easy, quote unquote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, next item, as a result of executive session, I'd like to make a motion that we approve of the extension of the IGA agreement of 30 days with the Sedona Oak Creek Airport Authority as we move towards negotiation for a new contract. So again, the motion is to agree to the extension of 30 days so that we can come to an agreement. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
That would take us until October.
Takes in October 30th.
Very good.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we have agreed to that 30-day extension. Secondly, motion to continue negotiations between the chief and the airport authority towards this agreement, and to ensure that utilization of legal counsel to ensure that this lease has those protections needed for both the Sedona Fire District and the airport authority. With that said, do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. We can get into the regular business of our open meeting. We've talked about the we've talked about the fire chief's evaluation. We've talked about the Oak Creek Canyon Authority. We are now looking at the presentation of awards and staff recognition. Chief Troutwine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone who's able to listen. So we have the honor tonight to recognize 3 of our employees that reached 20 years of service. So, you know, with our annual awards and then our recent, we've had a number of employees hit 15 years of service. We had our mechanics at 10 years of service. We have great staff, and these staff members that hit their 20 years, that's quite significant in the fire service. You know, everything after that's kind of icing on the cake, quote unquote. Also, it gets more challenging, but obviously these veterans are the ones that take that leadership role. So we do appreciate that. So we want to highlight them. So first of all, we do want to honor Ed Mazulis, our EMS and Training and Fleet Division Chief, for his 20 years of service. Ed started his employment back in 2000, of course, as an EMT, firefighter EMT. He was medic certified in 2004, promoted to captain medic in 2006, promoted to battalion chief medic in 2012, and then he became our EMS division chief, who also covers training and fleet, just quite a job, in 2015, and he served very well in that capacity and brought a lot of experience and knowledge, skill, ability to the table. Chief Mazulis has had a number of special accommodations over the years, since 2006 all the way through 2019. He's had the Community Service Award several times. He's had the Customer Service Award. He's received a unit citation. He was Officer of the Year. He received the Fire Chief Excellence Award. So you can see, based on that, just the level of performance that Chief Mazulis has done over the years. He has his associate's degree, also his bachelor degree in leadership, and then he just recently completed his master's degree in public administration in healthcare management at Grand Canyon University. And I'm going to say, too, this new fire district pool for workers' compensation, when they reached out who wants to be on the board, well, we got our Chief Mazulis on that board, and it fit very nicely with his Master's of Public Education. And also, remember, the district, with our educational support, we were able to support him in pursuing that. So it's full circle, and now he's utilizing that to better the district and improve our workers' comp. Also, Chief Mazulis served in the U.S. Navy as a hall maintenance technician from 1994 to 98. So we'll congratulate Ed for 20 years of service. There's 2 more, and then at the end, maybe we can clap, and if there's any comments from the board. The next employee that we'd like to recognize is Donnie Arwin, one of our captain medics, and he started as a firefighter EMT also, and then certified as a medic in 2003. He promoted to engineer medic in 2007, and in 2018 promoted to captain medic. He's received unit citation awards. He also has his associate's degree in fire science over here at Yavapai College, and Captain Arwin also served in the military, U.S. Army combat engineer, back in 1996 to 1999. Other achievement, this is a big one, Eagle Scout. And if you've ever known anyone as an Eagle Scout, they're pretty smart. They have a lot of endurance. They're very focused, and it's quite an accomplishment. So we want to thank Captain Arwin, and again, he's doing a fantastic job out on the floor, managing his crew, and just being that kind of employee for the Sedona Fire District that we say, hey, be like him, and everyone will be good. So the last but not least employee that hit 20 years of service we'd like to honor tonight is Patrick Ojeda, who is currently acting as battalion chief. And he started also in 2000 with our other 2 awardees as a firefighter EMT. He became a certified medic in 2001. He promoted to engineer medic in 2001, then captain medic in 2005. And it was recently in June here where we acted him up as battalion chief. And Pat does a lot of work, too, with overhead teams. He's been out quite a bit on wildfires this season as a task force leader and a strike team leader. He does an excellent job, and he represents our district very well. Another thing, too, I want to note about acting battalion chief Ojeda is his work with our grants. He's very instrumental in a lot of our grants. The recent grant award for our radios, a substantial amount, he was really the heavy hand on that, pushing that forward. And he's done a lot of grant support here. And, you know, when you're a large organization, you might have a full-time person doing grants. When you're a medium to small organization, those grants are out there, but it takes a lot of time and staff work. Well, Pat stepped up on numerous occasions, and to have somebody that talented with that, boy, it pays huge dividends for us. Pat's received several awards, unit citation, also Officer of the Year in 2 different years. And then he also has his associates from Yavapai College, and then he has a bachelor's degree in public administration from Grand Canyon University. So I just, it's always a great moment to pause, but to recognize these 3 great employees, their 20 years of service, and just what they mean to us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, with that said, I definitely believe that congratulations are an honor for those 3 individuals, and for the 2 that were in the military, Ed Mazulis in the Navy and Captain Arwin with the U.S. Army. Thank you for your service, both of you. Heidi, you get somebody to work with in grants, if you haven't already, because you're our grant person, I believe.
That's Carrie.
Is it Carrie? I thought it was you. It's Carrie. Well, Carrie, then you get to work with Captain Ojeda there. Okay, super. But thank you guys for the 20 years. I'm sure it's gone by fast, and the last 10, if you go that long, will go by even faster. So, thank you all. Anybody else like to comment on that?
I just want to make a quick congratulations to Mazulis for recently receiving his master's. He's always been diligent in everything that he does, and because of him, we've been able to obtain a lot of our PPEs during this crisis. So, thank you. And Captain Arwen, as Eagle Scout, that's amazing. So congratulations and thank you both for your service. And then last but not least, Ojeda. He's just a great guy all around, and I call him the grant wizard because he's really stepped up to the plate, and I just want to thank him personally for doing all the great work for us.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Chief, do they receive a ribbon, a pin, a medal, or what do they receive for that?
Yep, they'll get a 20-year ribbon.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is our regular business portion of our meeting. We have no speakers, or do we have any speakers for today? None of the audience, okay. No response to the speakers. Our consent agenda for this month consists of the August 18th, 2020 regular meeting minutes and the August 18th, 2020 executive session minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Gene, thank you. Any further discussion on? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is passed. Financial report and updates. Our Finance Director, Gabe Boldra. Is he with us on the phone or on the Zoom?
I'm here, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, Gabe, the floor is yours.
All right, can you guys allow me to share my screen, please? Here we go. Awesome. All right.
Okay.
Yes, you ready, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I'm just saying your position is just perfect for the wall mount behind you.
Stand right there. It's
I know, my horns, maybe I'll turn like this a little. Well, I don't know. We're just going to go with the horns. All right. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I hope everybody's doing well. You have the August financial report in your packet. Starting off the month of August, we'll start with our tax levy revenue. We did bring in $38,873 in tax revenue. That was $11,000 over what we projected based on historical collections. You'll notice we get to year to date, we're ahead as well. And I'm hoping that's because of some of that delinquency we saw last year is starting to catch up. We're starting to collect some of that. On the non-levy side, total non-levy revenues were $418,000 for the month. And that was driven predominantly by wildland revenue. We, between August, for July and August, we brought in $254,000 in wildland revenue thus far. Just to kind of put that in perspective from the board standpoint, we only budgeted $500,000 in revenue for wildland. So within the first 2 months of the fiscal year, we've already brought in 50% of that revenue. I'm sure Chief Coil could speak to the fact that the wildland season is not over. And we will see more, obviously, is when we get to second half of the fiscal year as well. So we're performing very well on that program and have in the past. But that budget amount was set at looking at our historical billing and then kind of reducing it some for conservativeness. On the expense side, our total expenses for the month were $1,361,940. We were over budget by $40,000. Starting with personnel costs, were $1,116,000. That was $34,000 over budget, and that variance is driven 100% by our wildland deployment costs. So obviously we have the revenue piece to come in and offset that. So if we are going to be over in revenue, we are going to see that corresponding variance on the expense side for our deployment costs. Buildings and land and vehicles and equipment, you can see a slight variation from budget. Buildings and land was just under by $4,200 and vehicles and equipment was under by $1,200. Communications and IT was $65,933. We did see a variance of $10,000 and that was related to timing on dispatch expense. And finally, managerial costs for the month were $74,166, which was under budget by $4,800. Year to date, total revenues at $1,168,000. As I had mentioned, we are over budget on property tax collection by $92,000, which has obviously helped significantly, considering we did see that shortfall last fiscal year. On the non-levy revenue side, that's driving the rest of that variance on our budget to actual for revenue. And the majority of that is that grant revenue that we received from Captain Ojeda on the radios, as well as the variance for wildland deployments of $127,000 is driving that number as well. On the expense side, total expenses year to date are $4,020,000, which is $372,000 over budget. Again, when we look at our expenses, we actually are trending for the first 2 months under budget on all major categories, with the exception of personnel. Year to date is over by $8,500, but the managerial is over budget by $405,000, and that's due to the roll-up of grant expenses in there, and that $400,000 that we expended for the communication equipment that was purchased from the grant. So although we have the expense, we also have the revenue to offset that expense. Percentage of expense, budget expended, we're at 24%, with 76% remaining.
Gabe, if I could interject on that.
Yeah.
When I look at that slide, it looks as though our spending has been aggressive in that for 2 months into the new fiscal year, we're at 24% of our budget already. But I think you've explained it in that we've been over budget on perhaps revenues that came in, and because of expenses with wildland firefighting and paying for overtime and deployment, they're kind of offsetting themselves.
Correct, Mr. Chair, as well as the grant expense as well as another big driver of that variance, because you're very right. At this point of the year, we should be at 16% and we're at 24%, but that is being driven by those anomalies that you just mentioned.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Percentage of expenses year to date, personnel at 77%, managerial is at 13%, and operations and communication are at 5%. And again, those two items we just discussed are kind of, skewing I shouldn't say skewing, but throwing the percentages off for these first couple months within the fiscal year. As we progress through the rest of the fiscal year, we'll see those numbers come back more in line with what we've seen in the past, as well as more in line with those statewide averages. And then finally, cash position year over year. We ended the month with $8.2 million, almost $8.3 million in total cash compared to $6.6 million last year, which is an increase of $1,682,000. And our other assets increased from $20,300 to $21,200. And big driving factor on that is our investment in capital assets last fiscal year. And then total liabilities decreased from $27.3 million to $26.8 million. And that's a function of our pay down on not only our long-term liabilities, but also our current, payroll liabilities in accounts payable. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Do you have any questions from the board to Gabe?
Gabe, this is Corey.
Yes.
In terms of the fact that the wildland expenses, look in the negative side right now, I think it's important for the public to know that overall it's a plus gain. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say, Member Cooperman, that we're in a negative standpoint on those expenses. I think we're very much in a positive standpoint. But I think it's important to know when I say we're over budget on certain expenses, we did budget expenses for wildland, but because we've exceeded that budget of wildland revenue, and the expenses are proportionate, we're going to see those variances on the expense side as well. So it is definitely a net positive to the district, and I think that you're right that it's important that the public knows that on average most see 25 to 35% return or surplus from wildland deployments.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other input? Jean, Joy, Al? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the August financials?
So moved.
Okay. Motion to approve the August financials has been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion for approval has been approved. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you, guys.
Next on the agenda is our fire chief's report. Chief?
Yes, sir, thank you. So we'll cover first on the front part, several of our slides again, which I think are good general overviews of possible trends. So we look at our incident summary here, and we look at the year-to-date totals for 2020 versus 2019. You can see our call volume slightly down. I think we've noted that the last couple of months. It was during that February through April, May period where our call volume dropped because the community was locked down from the COVID virus. So I think that's natural. I think it's going to pick up as we go. You can see our August total there, slightly behind July, but definitely June, July, we were in that open mode. People were traveling, and they're coming into our district and enjoying the beautiful weather and the beautiful scenery, and also calling 911. So that, I think it looks pretty normal in terms of our trend. The next slide, we had shared that when it comes to how we look at the 90th percentile, we look at outliers, we wanted to make sure the methodology was printed. So I'm not going to go line through line by this methodology, and we've discussed this the last few months, but this is for reference, and you can go back, or if you read this and don't quite understand, we'll be happy to talk that through. But again, when we look at data, we're looking at trends, but also it's important how we got to that data. So we think it's important when we talk about 90th percentile and averages and calculating what an outlier might look like, or we have very specific parameters here that are based on industry best practices and industry standards. So that's what the methodology slide is about. Looking at our 90th percentile, which is our total reflex time, it's that in 90% of the time, that's what the average is. You can get a look at year to date. We're a little up from last year to date. 925 was last year to date, and then we're at 1010. Again, August and July, we've kind of kept that 90th percentile down consistently, but again, you can see how we kind of spiked up in June as everything opened up and it got very busy. The next slide talks about, again, our average, and we're looking at a little less call volume here this fiscal year, but you can see the comparative between 2020 and 2019. And then finally, we have our, again, station responses. You can see, interesting, Station 5 picked up a little last month. Again, I think that's consistent with a lot of people traveling up into Hope Creek Canyon and hiking and camping and enjoying that beautiful, beautiful site here in Sedona. And again, it shows kind of in that district that we're going to get more calls where the people are. So,
Chief, if I
yes,
could just,
please.
I appreciate that note in the response analysis, the first graph you have, that SFD does not have much control over call processing nor travel time. So when we look at these 90th percentile, and really what we have control over is the turnout time, and that's been pretty stable across the months.
Yes, it's pretty consistent. You are correct. So the things we can control, we do. And like you said, I mean, if the highway is congested and we have to respond, well, other than our lights and siren, and hopefully someone can scoot over to the right, which is what the law says. But yeah, the turnout time's a big area for us. Obviously, the alarm processing's out of our hands. Turnout time's in our hands. Response is in our hands but minimally, right, with traffic flow, but we can make a wise decision on which direction to go, right? Or call for another resource if we know they can get there faster, even though we're closer, but we just know there's traffic. So and our troops are very good about that, being aware of their district and what's going on out there. That's very good. Thank you for highlighting that. So we'll move to the operations section, and Chief Coil is actually deployed up in Oregon, I believe now. He's moved a couple times with his incident management team. So you can see we've had quite a few trail rescues, which is very common this time of year. Also, we've had a couple of significant traffic accidents up at Oak Creek Canyon. Again, with a higher traffic flow, a narrow two-way highway, it's not uncommon, and you know, if you've driven up there on the weekend or when it's busy, it's very it's concerning sometimes that people walk inside the guardrail down the highway because they're parking way up canyon. So I would caution everyone just to be careful as you traverse up and down Oak Creek Canyon. And again, we don't want the accidents, and just, you know, watch your speeds, watch the road condition, and watch for those hazards. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Chief, in regards to the staffing up in the canyon, have we ever had an opportunity to increase staffing at various parts of any particular day to facilitate the high call volume?
Yes, and that's, thank you for bringing that up. So over the Labor Day weekend, of course, that's always a very significant, busy weekend here in the Sedona area. Our engine up there typically has two-person staff 24/7. So over that Labor Day weekend, for the first half of the shift, so the first 12 hours, we staffed a third firefighter up there. And we thought that was a pretty effective practice. It keeps our engine at Station 4 from having to go up in the canyon to back them up. It worked pretty effectively. And also, we put our rover unit, a Type 6 engine with two firefighter paramedics that are technical rescue trained, which is another practice that we do on the busy weekends and inclement weather or staffing up. And that is a great resource. It backs up the different trail rescues. It can back up on a wildland fire response. You know, it can cover an area if an engine's committed. It can also go, and we staged it one of the days at one of the stations to pick up the reserve ambulance if needed, because all 4 ambulances were transporting. We thought we had a pending call. So that kind of flexibility we do think about in that deployment, especially when we know we're going to get that higher call volume and lots of trail rescues. So yeah, I don't, that was, so Labor Day, staffing that third firefighter up in the canyon, I think that was very effective. That was very useful.
Good, thank you.
So we highlighted here our Type 3 engine again, just so you know, it's on its second deployment. It's in California. So in terms of wildfire season, we know it is extended in Arizona. Well, we've looked at the indices. We know we're still in a stage 1 fire restriction. This is very unusual. Now, obviously, one of the factors that really impacted that was our lack of precipitation. So our normal monsoon old season did not come. We had a little bit of rain, but because that precipitation lacked, you know, our fuel moistures out there are very dry. In fact, I was looking at some of the numbers last week. They appear to be drier than even in the middle of fire season. Again, that's not uncommon. The longer that lack of precipitation, we're used to cycles in Arizona, and we did not get it this year. So California, well, that's what happens there every season here for the last 10 to 12 years. They're in that exact scenario. So in terms of Arizona, there are some incidents, but they're kind of contained in general. The big issue is California, and so you know we still have our Type 3 engines deployed in California. We have a Type 6 engine deployed, and we have 2 overhead also in Oregon and California. So we are doing our part. We're holding that max. That's about the max of what we will send out, especially to California. It's a long way to go. But the whole region is taxed. The whole country really, when we have a larger fire, the incident management team 1, that's the highest, most complex type of incident you can have. So a Type 1 incident management team takes on the big fires, the big tornadoes, the big hurricanes. A Type 2 incident management team is a little less complex, but typically that's a state team. Type 1s are typically federal. They're all committed. I mean, across the country, there isn't one team that I know that is not deployed. So, like for example, last week California said we need 8 more type 1 incident management teams. And the federal government said, you get nothing. We have none left. So, when you look at conditions, probably our wildfire season here in Arizona is going to continue to extend a little bit. We know in the fall, winter, we'll start to get precipitation and we'll be better. California, I wouldn't be surprised to see it extend for a couple more months. And we're aware here, we're aware there. The Southwest it's a difficult year. And I think some of the secondary challenges are with COVID lining up with these fires. We've had to put a lot of mitigating measures out for the troops, and it's very, very challenging. So just to highlight some of that, it's extremely challenging year. Any questions on operations?
No questions, just a comment. My daughter lives in Bend, Oregon. And to the north and to the east of Bend and the surrounding, according to both the news and my daughter, 5 small communities burned to the ground. 5 of them. And so for those who are listening, how important it is to be fire aware when they're anywhere in Yavapai County or Coconino. It is explosive. And if it weren't for the fire service here and federal and state, what have you, be on a constant alert, we'd be in trouble.
Yes, we would. Again, it's super challenging, and we'll do our part here, and we'll keep ourselves safe here. And again, how we can help the Southwest, we're part of that region, so we're going to continue to do our part. Any other questions for operations? So our fire marshal is also in Oregon, but more of a personal nature with his son getting married, which is very exciting. So I'm going to report out for our fire marshal also, but we're hoping that they're all safe up there too. And they have quite a bit of smoke up there. So again, you look at our CRR, did 105 inspections last month. We have our intercompany inspections. They're not going to reflect anything yet because we were shut down from COVID, but we did re-implement the program here in September. So we'll start to see some work, and we're staying more pre-planning, making sure we have the correct address, which has been a challenge in some cases, and then just exterior fire protection systems, how we get in, how we get out. Is the occupancy fire sprinkler? Where do we hook up to that fire sprinkler? If there's standpipes in that occupancy, where do we hook up? Where do we spot the rig? Where's the hydrant? So all these kinds of things are what our firefighters are going out to look at these occupancies and make sure we can respond safely. So we'll start to report out on that very soon. We've done quite a few plan reviews. And then some of the notable events from CRR here was the explosion and fire at the Los Abrigados Resort. So we had a barbecue that had a malfunction, and we responded out. Our firefighters responded very quickly, and were able to mitigate that on the patio. But unfortunately, no one was hurt on that because the person operating it, there was quite a fireball and explosion on that. We also had a transformer explosion that started a small brush fire, which we were aggressive. I believe when you look at the thank you letters, the resident there in Andante, where we responded and we made a really good stop and kept it safe and kept that house from being threatened, was very appreciative, which I think we all would if a fire was stopped next to the house because of aggressive, excellent firefighting. And then also we're working on one of the grants we're working on, and one of our inspectors, who's also our CIP man, Eric Walter, is taking on a grant that's available by the county for some fuels reduction mitigation. So we're going to see how that turns out. We've never applied for this particular grant, but we found it, and Eric raised his hand high and has done a fantastic job on his submittal. So we're just waiting to see if maybe we can get some funding there and then help again when we look at these areas and how we put dumpsters out, and just how do we help the residents mitigate the fuels, how do we help them prepare their homes, how do we help them prepare the area so we have to respond. It really minimizes the potential there. And then a big deal going on in CR is our migration of occupancy inspection data to our new program, ESO. This has taken a while. In talking to our fire marshal, he's been very excited about this because we were shooting for beginning of October. We're going to push that deadline a little. But the ability of this new format in ESO for us to pull data and do reports and track things is just, it's very, very good. So CRR has been working really hard on that data transfer. You know, like anything, if you have, these new programs and formats don't necessarily match up how you had the data before. So you get this transfer, and there's a little bit of what we call spaghetti, right? When you pull a lot of hose and it all gets tangled, and you're like, I don't even know what line I'm on. We call that spaghetti in the fire service. Well, there's a lot of spaghetti when they transfer this data. So it's taking a little while to clean it up, but once they do, we're excited because we'll be able to get some better queries and reports to report out and track. So I know the CRR has been doing an excellent job working hard on that. Is there any questions on CRR? Very good. Well, I'm going to kick it over to Chief Mazulis, one of our 20-year employees here for EMS Fleet and Training. I believe Chief is on the line.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
All right. So EMS-wise, as the chief stated, we've been busy, been trucking along, been keeping up on supplies. The supply chain's really starting to open up, and the restrictions have eased. We're getting our supplies on a more regular basis. Fleet-wise, Mike Sheehan continues to keep things afloat, and we've got a couple of vehicles that we are working on getting out of the fleet and reducing some of his workload. And in training, we've been actively getting ready for the new hire orientation and the engineer's promotional testing exam, and doing some different drills at the stations, getting the guys out of the house. And thankfully, worked with our partners at the Department of Public Safety and kept our helicopter rescue technicians certified with some modified drills and recertifications for our helicopter team members. And that is what we've had going on.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. With the restrictions that we have, Chief Mazulis, with COVID and distancing and masks and what have you, how's that impacted the training for the fellows out in the field, you know, whether it be hose lays or throwing ladders?
When they're out doing, our guys have actually stepped up and been doing quite a bit more training outside, because they get to social distance and get a breather from the masks, and it's been good. And it was a little slow with some of the hot days we've been having, but as it's been cooling off, crews have been getting out and doing a lot of training, so it's been pretty cool to see.
Good. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and Chief Mazulis, is Corey. Along the same line of questioning, in terms of COVID, how has that been affecting our ability to do the community program?
You know, it's limited our ability to do a lot of the community programs we have in the past, but then again, a lot of them were tied to established community events which have been canceled. Specific to one that's near and dear to me is our CPR program, and I actually just worked with Eric Walter in the Community Risk Reduction Office today on putting together a policy so we can return to teaching the public in a safe manner in a COVID responsible way. So I'm excited to get some of those things going again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief?
Thank you. Let's go to administration. Heidi.
Hello. I don't have a mic. Can you hear me? We're doing good?
We can hear you. I don't know if it's the audio.
Not necessary. Oh, thank you, Dee. No? Thank you. All right, now I won't shout at everybody. All right, so our upcoming events or activities, our buildings do remain closed to the public, and the administrative team continues to work remotely. Limited access and the in-person office hours. We review these regularly just to make sure we can get some, that collaboration effort is really difficult with us working remotely. So trying to do what we can with Zoom meetings, getting in the office at least once a week, some of us twice, some of us more. And we keep reviewing that to make sure that everyone's got their needs taken care of and we can continue business as usual as best we can. We recently had our remembrance event for September 11th, that ceremony. We did pre-record it so that we could do that in a COVID-safe manner and publish that on our website. That link remains up. You can connect to it from our webpage. Constant contact email went out to our subscribers and also to our VIP list. And there's also a link to it from our Facebook page. So it's a nice little 20-minute or so ceremony, well done for those of you that participated in it, and thank you for making yourselves available for that recording. And now, where we haven't recorded it before when we've done it live, now we have that for posterity. We can continue to review that. So anyone who didn't get to go see something, watch something on television, it's available for them to view at any time. So we were very happy to be able to do that. Upcoming, we are doing some cancer screening, so our fall health. Again, with some of the restrictions, we're finding it difficult to get the clinicians signed up to be able to do the on-site screenings that we've wanted to do, things like that flu shot, mammograms, and so forth. So we partnered with the city. They are on the same health plan as we are through Kairos, and through that partnership, we were able to combine our effort, and on one day, we're able to do some biometric blood panel screening for glucose and cholesterol, that type of thing, circumference and body health things. So we'll do that in the morning at the city. They're going to host it at their site there in the city. And then the mammograms, the mammography, mobile mammography unit will be up there. And so all city employees, including the school district, and SFD employees, their dependents that are covered under the health plan can sign up, so we'll have that page out there. So the health of our employees, we want to make sure that we're focusing on that and making it accessible and easy for them to do. That's coming up in October. We also have great interest in doing the skin cancer screening, so that kind of baseline or annual skin cancer screening. That's the clinician that we're having a hard time getting booked. So they do seem like they're booked through the fall, but we're going to be diligent and keep looking for that so that we can get that scheduled. They'll probably be after the first of the year, and we will host that here so that the city will be able to get in on those appointments, and then we'll host that here in this room behind our little mirrored glass that we covered. Yes, sir?
Just out of curiosity, is or is not the board available to participate in that?
So for it, if you're not covered by our health plan, but if you have a participating health plan, they are taking those insurances. So if you bring your insurance card and you wanted to make that scheduled appointment, you're welcome to do so. So it's guaranteed coverage through the plan that we have through our employment. But if you have a participating plan, and we can check on that for you. So if you wanted to check in with me, we can do that for you as well. So we put a part of the surplus funding from the fiscal year 20 funding was for that continued and advancing our cancer screening. And so that skin cancer screening, the surcharge that they are putting in there, that's part of that funding that you approved, is making that available to our employees at no additional surcharge to them to do it on site. So we're really excited to be able to do that for them. So stay tuned. We'll schedule that. Yes, sir.
I know cancer screening, that's sort of a broad term.
Yes.
While we annually with breast cancer awareness and what have you, men's prostate and bladder cancer is a major killer, and especially among firefighters.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen any move on a national level or state level, what have you, to address it. Can you correct me am I wrong?
I don't know that you're wrong, and I don't have any data for you on whether they're doing a movement. November is part of that month for men's health, so October is women's health and November is men's health. And I can see that they are trying to continue that movement. The men don't seem to be as excited about a ribbon in their color or a T-shirt in their color that got us on board with the women's shirt and the breast cancer awareness. But with any luck, we can push that through. Those other cancers that are specific to firefighting and that are detectable and help when caught early, we are working with our physicians who do our annual physicals, and we start doing those in January. Captain Wassel is part of our peer fitness and support wellness team, And he's been working with Dr. Wesley, our staff physician, to try to incorporate some more cancer screening tests into the annual physical. So things that can easily be done by either a urine test or blood test, he's adding those, and that is also part of that funding that we requested. Thank you for mentioning that. We appreciate that. Since we have just talked about breast cancer t-shirts, those of you who didn't get your pink ones from last season, they are there for you, and the new ones have just arrived. So Carrie worked her magic and paid them more than they wanted to be paid up front to place the order, and they processed us faster, we think. So we thank our vendor for really prioritizing it so that we can get those in, sorted, inventoried, and get them out to the crews. So you will see in October, day one of their shift all month long, all the crews will be wearing their new duty shirts, which will look similar to their normal duty shirts, but they'll have the bright pink for the Breast Cancer Awareness Month with the ribbon on it in place of the Sedona Fire red. So we look forward to seeing the crews out there participating, and do so yourself in whatever shirt you have. We'd love it if you participated in those. Staffing updates, we have an update on our IT tech position. Isn't the update we necessarily wanted to give, but we did not find, again, a viable candidate. The committee on that chaired by the telecom manager, Bob Motes, he did not find a candidate that he felt really met the needs of what we needed in that position. So we've kind of taken a step back and are reevaluating that position. So we're thinking of looking at reworking the job description, reworking the actual title of the position that we're looking for them. So make sure that we're meeting their needs, making sure that we're putting that out properly to the public for the candidate that we're actually looking for, so that we can really get a new addition to that team that's going to be helpful right off the bat, which is really what they're looking for and what they need is somebody who can hit the ground running for us. So we're excited to kind of re-begin that process, which we have begun, and so we'll have updates as that continues along, and definitely reach out if you have any questions or input or have recruit ideas, because we'll take them at this point. The most exciting news, I think, maybe for us, is that we do have 5 new firefighters who are beginning, if our date holds, on October 19th. Ed Missoula's already discussed that we've got our training academy beginning up. That's 3 weeks of intensive orientation and training, doing part of that live in our training facility, the Verde Valley Training Facility. I'll do a little aside on that we've just launched our donation to the Humane Society of Sedona. They've asked for a gift from Sedona Fire to auction off. And in the past years, we've done birthday parties in the station at the crews. And with COVID, we obviously can't do something like that. We've also had dinner or lunch with the chief, where they bring that, we cook for them, and they talk, and the chief regales them with stories. And we can't do that either. So they looked for an experience. I know, it's so sad. But Battalion Chief Baker came up with a really great idea of auctioning off an experience. So having the winning bid be able to come and view a 4-hour segment of the new firefighter training live at the Verde Valley Training Center. So we've given Training Officer Duran identified 3 activities that would be really exciting to watch and participate. They won't be actually participating in the event. They'll just be watching, getting a tour of the facility, and kind of having a buddy explaining everything that's happening for them. So we're really excited. The Humane Society of Sedona is really excited to have that. And so if you're going to participate in that online event for the Humane Society, go visit their website and look for that. That's coming up here later in September. And definitely, if you're interested in that experience, go ahead and bid on it. It's for a good cause. And then I'll finish off my segment with just my mental health moment, and really I'll just kind of keep it brief. I wrote a bit about it, but we don't, none of us here need any instruction or more explanation about it, that September is National Suicide Awareness Month. And while we all are aware of it year-round, this is really just the month to kind of focus for the attention and the sensitivity and the kindness about it, and really get the word out that there are resources. You'll see social media has been flooded with websites and the hotline number that, if you don't know what that is, it's 800-273-8255. They're working on getting the 911 equivalent of that, but that won't be effective until 2022. But when it is, that will be just really such a help to have that be something easily contacted. We've had, along with the COVID deaths and the violent deaths, there's also been a number of suicides recently in northern Arizona, and one just on the 12th in Flagstaff. And so just keeping in mind with our law enforcement officers, so keep in mind that you're not alone. There are resources, and it's if you reach out, it's not your fault if you can't affect a change, but you could. And so don't be afraid to say something, because that could make all the difference. So just look for resources, be kind to each other, and that's the end of my report.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yeah, any questions? We might have a question for you, Heidi.
Sure.
Well, it's more of a comment in regards to our 9/11 remembrance that we have. I wanted to let the chief know how much I appreciate all his hard work in getting that done. It was a lot of work, and it was very important for us to have it as a virtual situation because of COVID, and I hope that everybody, understands that throughout the state and throughout the country, several districts and departments did follow suit with that. They didn't follow our suit, but they did the same thing. And, that's also saving lives. And there's nothing wrong with having a virtual event for 9/11. And he did a wonderful job, and I just want to thank him very much for that job.
Thank you, Board Member Joe. And there's a lot of participants. Chief Mazulis was a big hand in that, and the Honor Guard, just everyone, so thank you. Yeah, we felt that was really important to take that moment.
And I was really impressed. It was very professionally done. I mean, it's almost a little Hollywood in Sedona. So,
Well,
the lighting, the sound, the camera work, the fading in and out of one scene to the other, that was well done. And it's on the website, correct?
It is.
And do you want us to try to beat the drum to get people to see it, even though it's 4 days later? I think especially some of the things that were spoken, some of the things Scott talked about,
Oh,
I had never heard of before.
You're more than welcome to share that. Please do.
It's on our social medias as well. It's on the Facebook, like my Facebook, and I think it's on a couple of others.
Yeah, please share it.
Yeah.
We have another hidden weapon I found. Brent Johnson did all that editing.
Yes.
So there's all kinds of possibilities now. Who knows? Maybe a feature movie.
Follow
Featuring all the board members, of course. But yeah, thank you. That it really was well done. He did an exceptional job.
Chief, I just wanted to add that the main reason why we did that, and because, to me personally, amid this COVID concern that we have with safety and social distancing and all that, is that we didn't forget those that we lost, and we had to have and show some sort of respect to those that we lost, and to the best of our ability. That's what we did. I think we accomplished that. So, on behalf of the whole board, thank you and your staff and the crew for putting all that together. So thanks.
Yeah. And to add to that, I want to thank our board chair, Dave Soto, for your contribution to that, and your emceeing it and your words about it, as well as Chief Scott Jablow,
Yeah.
and also our police chief. They all had important messages to help remind us and not forget.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okey-doke. Thank you. Chief?
So to finish off the chief report, our strategic plan, I believe we have another meeting this month, right, Carrie? We had to move one from August, but we're continuing to move forward to refine that and fulfill the need there to have that goal and objective as we move forward. Station 4, again, moving slowly. We're waiting for the final feasibility study, and then we'll walk down next steps to keep that project moving forward.
The chief, when are we thinking we'll be getting the feasibility study?
Yeah, I'm thinking any moment.
Okay.
And then I think just a parallel challenge, which I think maybe that it's moving a little slow, it's probably gonna be okay, is, I know the construction industry, it seems like there's companies and there's crews available, but some of the big challenges with, as everything locked down with COVID, is getting materials. So you might be able to get a contractor and have everything ready, but the materials that they were readily accessible, they have to order them, and there's been huge delays. So the projects out there, they're slow, not because the crews aren't able and ready to work, it's because of materials. So, you know, how long will that go on? I'm not sure what the backup is, but the hope is we get through that feasibility study, we start taking the next steps, and then we'll map out, and hopefully we'll be able to report out some better timelines, so to see the progress. We had a number of purchase orders that were from 10 to 50,000, and first was that 18,000 for the software that we use, the Visio software for our strategic plan, which is a really excellent tool that's proven to be very effective for us. And then some of the other ones, just to note, I believe 3 out of those 4, the 6 big wheels rescue and litter. So all of our engines are equipped with a rescue basket and a wheel, and those are for our trail rescues. So when we get back out on the trail, we can put a patient in that basket and carry them out. And where it's a nice trail, that wheel, you can roll them, so it's a little easier when you're in 100 degree and you're carrying somebody, 2 miles down a trail. So we're able to replace those 6. The REMS vehicle and the second REMS vehicle, both those 2 things were approved by you when we asked you for the approval for the budget surplus. And then the 2 Auto Pulse Deluxes, those again were approved by you with that process. And I wanted to highlight those 6 big wheels and litters, that additional REMS UTV, and then those 2 Auto Pulses. That's huge. Now we have an Auto Pulse with the battalion chief, so he'll go on a full arrest, but now we can put one down at Station 3 and spread it out, so we're going to try to get that to the patient's side much quicker by having multiple ones. So again, thank you for your support and your approval on that. And then the BK radio replacement, I believe that one was in our normal capital plan. And just for a little clarification what a BK radio is. Bendix King is the brand name, but those radios are radios that are predominantly used in wildfires, and the reason is they have the ability to be programmed either in the field or at base camp. So, for example, our Type 3 engine gets dispatched to California. Well, they may get there, and there may be 1,500 firefighters on that fire. Well, think about it. There might be units from New Mexico, Arizona, California, Northern California, Southern California. Well, we don't all carry the same, banded radios and frequencies. So you bring your VK into the base camp, they program it for the load of those channels on that fire. So all the air to ground, all the emergency channels, all the divisions, the ops, the IC. So the beauty of those radios, and we do a lot of wildland, we use these things. So having updated ones where we can get them programmed when we go on these fires at a moment's notice, it's an additional radio that we carry in the wildland. So to be clear, it's not, the other ones we got approved, these ones, I got my new one pending, I gotta go get it, but those ones are for our day-to-day use and can be used for wildfire, but those BKs are special radios that the whole wildfire community uses. And again, when I can go up and if you're a crew supervisor and I'm that engine and I can't get to base camp, hey, let me clone my radio, and I get it from you, and if you have the right equipment, and I walk away and I'm ready to go. I can start talking to helicopters, which is whatever we all want to do, right? So I wanted to just highlight that, but that's again part of our planning, our capital budget. We need to keep replacing these things to keep current, keep the equipment working properly. And the board, the staff, the firefighters done an excellent job of that, forecasting and planning. That's what we're about. So to finish off, just with our social media outreach, 301 new page likes, and then post reads, 99,000, engagement, 55,000, a little increase on the engagement, but the other ones decreased a little. And then most engagement were the Tube Canyon or the Oak Creek Canyon MVAs that we managed, and then also just heat warning. So when that heat came through, people want to hear, people want to know. And then last but certainly not least, please make sure you read the thank you letter. And again, I believe that was related to the fire that we had near the house there on Dante, and the resident was extremely happy that we were able to protect and save that house. And think about it, that's one incident, and I don't know what the value of that property was. I wasn't there, but for us to save that valued property in one incident, think about what we do on the other 400, 4,500 calls. So that to have that thank you, it's appropriate, but it's highlighted because it's appropriate. But thank you for your support as we keep our apparatus and equipment current, and we deploy and we do what we need to do. That ends the chief report, unless there's any questions.
I've got one question for you, Chief. The inability to hire for IT. As Heidi identified, this is the third go around. This isn't free, it isn't cheap, and it takes a lot of time, staffing, and money to put a process on like this to come up empty-handed. What is not your take, but what's your thought on, are we doing it right? Are we doing it the best of our ability? Is there another avenue we need to look at? How do we get past getting right up to the end and then laying short?
Sure, so that's a very good question. So several of the components we looked at as we reviewed this, by the way, I hate to say it, that was our third attempt. So about 2.5, almost 3 years ago was the first attempt. And it was billed as a Technician 2 level, which is higher than the Technician 1. Then that was unable to fill, and then it evolved and came back to Technician 1, which was the last attempt, and then the most recent one was a Technician 1 too. So one, I kind of called for a stand down. In other words, we're not going to run it the same way that we just did, because obviously it didn't work. So part of that stand down was getting the right staff members online, and we did a meeting with IT, with admin, with human resources. So here's some of the things that we're reevaluating. One, the job description. Okay, so we always want to identify the job description. Is it that we're looking for Superman or Superwoman? In other words, it has to be up on all these IT things instead of maybe a more specific area. And that might be related to the responsibilities of the other 3 people we have in IT. How's that line up? So one, we're reevaluating the job description. Part of that evaluation is it within industry standards. Okay, and we've looked at all that. And we thought we were pretty good, but okay, well, let's step back and look at that again. Second, we reevaluated and had a discussion on whether we should be flying a Tech 1 or Tech 2. So where staff landed is, let's go fly a Tech 2 again. Now, there's a couple reasons for that, but one of them is pay rate. So we know it's challenging to live in the city of Sedona, especially for some of these entry-level positions. So when we fly something like that, and IT, we might have to reach a wider area to get that IT person. So imagine trying to transplant at a starting level salary where you can't live in the city, so you're going to have to pick somewhere on the periphery that's a little less expensive for housing and drive in. What's that look like for someone? Unless they already had a plan to move here or they already live here, and it's kind of within their plan. So that's one of the challenges. We're looking again at the pay rate. We're looking at the state of Arizona, what IT gets for Technician 2 level. And we're looking in our region. We've looked at some of the other districts around that are of like size and complexity, and when they've hired, what's their job description look like? What are they hiring? Tech 1, Tech 2, and then what kind of salaries are they putting out there? Again, we have a pretty good benefit package too. Maybe we didn't promote the benefit part of it enough. We promote the salary part, but maybe as we looked at it, that was a part of it we need to push a little more, going, hey, the salary's this, but look all these benefits you get. So those are the main things that we're going to reevaluate and try. And then really the last thing that we're probably going to have to look at a little more carefully is if we can't fill the position, and which we haven't been for a few years now, right? Maybe we have to look at what could be outsourced just to kind of help the team now if we're trying to get that other player on board to help offset a lot of these responsibilities that our current IT team has, right? So what's that look like? Is there anything that maybe we can help take some of the pressure off them while we try to, spool this up and figure out how we can get that right person? So, hey, I gotta believe that the right person's out there. We'll look at the job description, we'll look at the salary and benefits, we'll fly it most likely as a technician level 2, so, that'll draw a little higher salary in pay scale. So we'll give it another run, and my hope is that we'll get that right person, and we'll get them on board, and then, we can shore up all the hard work that's going on there in IT.
Are we competing with industry?
Are we?
It would seem to me that we are.
Yeah, there's no doubt we probably are.
And comparison, what have you,
Yeah.
they can pick and choose, especially where industry may have a more livable community.
And relocating during COVID means you have to be pretty motivated to make a change.
Yeah, and it's funny, the last two, the GIS was pre-COVID, right? And the general admin, we were already kind of spooled up before COVID, so that might be a lineup too. It's just a bad time to try to hire that kind of a industry position. Because again, it's someone that, they have to be trainable, but they gotta come in with some base skill and knowledge. They gotta know how to, if it's red or blue, cut the red or blue wire, I don't know. You can't be guessing, right? You gotta cut the right one. So I think, it's a different kind of skill, and it might be in more demand, and then the way the industry is, it's competitive. So maybe, that person that we should have got went somewhere else. So, yeah, we're gonna look at all those aspects, and, hard work again, as you say, but, try to get it lined back up and hopefully have success.
Well, without doubt, I think the board is looking forward to, positive, updates as we move forward to hiring that person. So thank you. Any other comments on the chief's report? Okay. All right, thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda is discussion, possible action, review and approval of requisition 9319 to CS Group up to the amount of $70,000 for a havoc system replacement and improvement in the cruise quarters of Fire Station 3, and that was Buzz Bukowski.
Yeah, so we know that the board approved the coolers that we're able to take off the apparatus floor and get that all dialed up and move out. And I know soon here we're going to do a station tour with a couple of you just to look at that success and look at that station. This one is the HVAC system, so the heating, air, ventilation system within the fire station that would serve, the firefighters in the dorms, the kitchen, and all the communal areas. So this is in our capital plan. It's part of our normal update and repair maintenance. It is a need, and just to keep in mind, this is exactly why we do the capital planning. As our fire stations get older, these kinds of things need to be replaced. So that's kind of where we're at with this HVAC system that we budgeted for it. It's in the capital plan. We want to walk it down, get that approval to go ahead and update and replace that so that we have the system that works properly for the firefighters to function and respond out of that station. So are there questions on that?
This has been in the works for quite a while and such a needed item.
Yes.
I'd be pleased to make the motion with that.
I got a quick
Sure.
question. I have but one bid before us. Was there additional bids to get a comparative bid, or was this part of that group that, within that group, they gathered that best bid?
Yeah, I thought there were multiple bids. Heidi, do you have any clarity on that?
I was trying to get Buzz to see if he's able to chime in, but I do believe that they are part of that, the state contract where they have the best pricing for us. Buzz, are we on?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Buzz, if you'd like to comment on that. Buzz, obviously, is our battalion chief, and he manages these facility things, and he's done a fantastic job. So, see you up there. Go ahead, Buzz.
Sure. So under the, I think the financial considerations section, this is part of the NCPA, which is one of those national consortium sort of guaranteed best value systems that we use. similar to the coolers that we bought last year for Station 3.
Right. Okay, so this was part of that group that gives us the best bid rather than seeing three
Correct.
competing bids. Okay.
Yeah, it's a sort of a guaranteed lowest or best value, however you want to word it.
Okay. And the only common area within this remodel is the hallway and the hallways to the bathrooms. Is that what you refer to as a common area?
That's correct. In essence, it's similar to each bedroom will have similar to like a motel room type of system. That's a ductless system, and then the upgrade of an existing unit would cover the bathrooms and the hallway area.
Okay. And does that exclude any training areas within that floor? I'm not totally, familiar with the floor layout.
No, this would just be that one wing where the sleeping quarters are. The other half, like kitchen and day room, is under another heating and cooling system itself, which is working as it should.
Okay, great. Thank you. That kind of clears up how that's going to be laid out. Thank you.
No, you bet. Thank you.
Anything further on that, Chief?
That is all, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the Chief? No? Corey, you were about to?
Okay, I move to approve requisition 9319 to CS Group up to the amount of $70,000 for the replacement and improvement of the HVAC system in the crew quarters of SFD Station Number 3.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion is passed. Next item on the agenda is discussion on the update regarding the First Amendment to Coconino County Agreement for Grant of Easement with the Chai Spot LLC and the lease amendment with AT&T for Fire Station 4 generator access. Mr. Bill Whittington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the Chai project, we're still waiting for the title company to come back with the recording information we requested so we can locate the new form of easement. On AT&T, we have prepared a modified lease agreement for AT&T and simply waiting for a depiction from the engineer.
Okay, so we've done our due diligence and it's all on them to get back. Okay, great. Anticipation by perhaps next
Well, I was
meeting?
hoping for this meeting, so I got to believe we
Pretty-
should have something back from them by next.
Okay, great, super. Thank you for your work on that. Next item on the agenda is discussion and presentation of the 2019 annual report. Chief?
Was it me?
Yes, and I'm going to give the mic over to our Director of Administration, Heidi Robinson, and she is going to lead us through this.
All right, thank you. Heidi?
I was just notified of the pleasure of doing this right before you all walked over here, so that is super. So, Joy, you have yours handy and you've been print, which is wonderful. You'll notice it is very much in the same format as it's been, was last year, and with a few changes, and appropriately so is the theme of, thank you, Joy, a board member more is doing a wonderful Vanna display of our annual report. Yeah, the theme of 2019 that we kind of went with and led the charge, Terry Tarver, of course, led the charge as always, was of change. We had a lot of change happening in 2019, change of our fire chief twice, and all of the changes in the community and in our fire stations and with vehicles, and so we kind of ran with that theme. So we wanted to kind of start with the same format as it's been, the same shelf, focusing on the change that we've been doing, change in the community and our focus on that. So you'll see that's kind of the first section of the report, and then we get into the meat of it with our actual finances and describing what each division has accomplished. in those pieces. So each section you might see where there's a focus on training and on community engagement, giving back to the community as Sedona Fire is wont to do. That's the one thing that's always remained the same throughout the day. And in the staffing changes, building changes, we wanted to focus on each station, something that has changed in that area. So you'll see a nice kind of report on the station itself, the crew that's there, specific activities that have happened in that year for each station, and then a highlight page kind of focusing on what the change in that area was. So here at Station 1, we focused on our small remodel right before the fire chief came to us, where we moved ambulance billing downstairs. We made that a more accessible space, a little bit better work for those two in that department to collaborate better and to create some more office space for human resources and some small remodels on the fire chief's office and whatnot. So kind of focusing on the things that we do to keep constantly improving our new ambulance at Station 3, the new engine, the new Type 3, am I right? To go out on wildland, and I'm still learning. And so all of those changes that we did. And so next year, like 2020 is not a year of change. We don't know what our theme will be, but we do know that we're going to run with it. We are going to try to, if we can, this coming year, change up the format a little bit and get you something fresh for the community to look at. And then really start focusing on, as we've kind of discussed with our strategic planning software that we're utilizing, and we're reformulating that strategic plan for the coming years, to really start to get, as we have discussed, that the budget will follow the strategic plan, and then so will the annual report, so that we can really look at the annual report in terms of accomplishing our goals in our strategic plan. So we kind of wanted to give you that heads up on how we might change that. This report is a little bit more, we'll keep the same statistical information in there that you'll find on calls and the mapping of that, thinking that that's kind of useful for people to see our percentage of calls, EMS, and how that's going, what amount of time we spend in training annually, all really kind of eye-opening things to see how much time we really dedicate to those activities. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have opinions, be kind. Carrie put a lot of hard work into it, and she's sick of me counting commas. So,
You edited that.
I'm one of those. I am.
Do we have any questions
Well,
for?
the question is, how is this communicated to the general public and internally?
It is posted on our website. So we
Is
have
it
a
a
link.
flip book or?
It is digital, so we have a digital copy only. We really don't do a printed copy of our annual report. It is quite large, and so we do want to be, one, environmentally conscious. Joy gets the special one because we
Why?
love board member more, and so
I requested it because I was going to have it available for members of the public that wanted to see it.
that
Or
would be wonderful.
the honest truth is, I like to have it in my house so I can look through it and see how cool we are.
There's good stuff in there.
It really is.
Really.
This is really informative.
So in the past, we have printed a copy and had it in our lobby, where our lobby is still closed. So we won't be doing that at this time. It is something that if a member of the public asked for it, it is one of these things that's public record. We would
Right.
absolutely provide that. So we would either provide it digitally or we would print it for a community member. If the library, other things as they begin to open and have these things available, we would love to have copies of it there.
Is it easy to find off the home?
Oh, absolutely. If you type in our search bar on our webpage and say annual report, it'll take you right to that page.
Yeah.
And all of them are there.
It's not posted yet, though.
But this one is not posted yet.
And then last year, we did share it on social media, and I can also do an email blast like we do with the agendas and the minutes. We can do it.
I think the email blast would be especially good.
Yeah.
We can send that out to our constant contact list, do a link to that on our Facebook page, just doing it for the record. And then we do have that link there as well. And we would love for you, if you want a link to it, to make sure you have a good copy of it. So once Telecom can get that on the website, so we need it approved before we can publish it for you, because that's that's what we want, in case you say it's no good, it's not accurate. We don't want to publish it before that. But then we'll get that out on the website, make sure we get the link to the board members, and that you'd be more than welcome to share that with anyone you would love, because we are proud of it, for sure. Carrie put a lot of hard work into that.
It's well done. It looks fantastic. It's probably the best one that I've seen in the last, since I've been on this board. So,
I need to hear me saying, this is not my favorite part of my job.
you know, getting back to what Al's question was, is for me would be distribution. Would it be on, like say, the library if it were open? If it's not open, it could be open. I don't know. If it's on their countertop for the public review type of thing.
We would be delighted to provide them with a copy of it, absolutely.
Thank you. Any further questions for Heidi on the annual report? Okay, and there is no need for a motion for approval on this, as far as I know. Okay, Troy?
Yeah, I just wanted to say how well done it is. It's really, since 2004, when I was first on the board, you know, we had the annual reports and so forth, and this is really probably the best.
Yeah.
I'm really, really impressed. And I do like to look at these. I'm very tactile, as everyone knows, so that's why I had it printed out, but I'm very impressed. I love it, and thank you so much, everyone, for your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda. We are winding down to the bitter end here. We have board member items, discussion, possible action, review, and approval of revisions to the SFD Fire Board Handbook as a result of the annual review. With that said, Chief, was there anything that you wanted to add to that for the review process that we engaged in?
No, I think it's important just annually that the board gets that opportunity to review and update. And I know you've had the chance to go through it with staff, so yeah, I would just recommend we continue with that practice. It's good to keep it current and updated.
Okay. And Carrie, I know you're the one that put everything, all the revisions together, and we actually had Bill review it in part, and perhaps, Bill, you have input that you might want to add?
You know, I'm impressed with it. I think Tricia probably started this project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You did good work. There was some changes to the open meeting law this year. They're going to force a couple of modifications. When you undo. It's a good piece of work.
Okay, good, super. And then also, come January, February, when we have our board workshop, we'll also be utilizing this book and reviewing it as we go through the process of that training.
It's such a helpful tool, especially because we're going to have a new board member join in December, and it's just so helpful.
So for those of you that put in suggestions and additions or deletions, thank you for your input. Carrie, anything further on that? Okay. Again, there is no, well, I guess there is a motion to be made. Joy, would you like to make the motion on that?
Of course.
Okay, there it is, right?
Either on page. Okay, I move to approve the changes to the SFD Fire Board Handbook as presented, pending legal review.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the handbook is approved as it is presented, pending legal review. Thank you. Okay, discussion possible action, confirmation from Yavapai County regarding cancellation of the Sedona Fire District's Fire Board November 2020 election and appointment of candidates by Board of Supervisors. Let's see, who received that letter? Carrie?
Yes.
Would you like to comment on that?
So, as you know, we had two board positions that were up for election this year. We had two candidates that filed for election, and since there were only two candidates and two open positions, they are automatically appointed to the board. So the new board member and Chairman Soto will take their seats as of December 1st. So we would be in contact with Janet and get her the information on getting her sworn in and take her seat starting December.
Okay, so the two new board members are myself and Janet Javlo, who will be replacing our board clerk, Corey Cooperman. Thank you. Of course, it's not official yet until
Sure.
a couple more meetings. So, okay, thank
Stick
you.
around.
Yeah, stick around. Okay. And last but not least on our agenda is discussion of board members' fire district related activities since our last board meeting. And Al, why don't we start with you on that side of the room?
Other than picking up on a few fire district posts and moving them around, and just, I was going to go look at my Facebook. I see that at 5:15 this afternoon, a fire started on Interstate 17 and closed Interstate 17 at Cordes Junction. So as you can see, fire is always in the news, even locally. So my main connection to the fire district is sometimes people approach me as if I am all wise, and I normally have a blank stare, but the truth is the digital presentation of the fire district is what educates me more and more every day, and I pass it on wherever I think it's really, I bet you people don't know that. And I'm surprised that even though you have your fire district viewing, I mean, your website, I mean, your Facebook page, I'll put a post and I'll have 50, 60, 70 people take it and move it on, and some people, share it, and others just make comments, and so it is a good way of building public relations.
Good. Thank you. All right. Gene, what do you got for us?
Well, most of the people that I, in my sphere of influence, if you will, they know I'm on the board, and many of them come up with one question: how's that board doing? That's their primary question. They don't ask me about the budget. They don't ask specifics. So how's that board doing? And I like to brag a lot. I said, this board is so tight, and we are a team, and we are serving you and the community well. I didn't say all that, but that's what I should have said. And so on. But anyway, I'm prepared to answer questions if they're provided.
Okay, thank you. Joy, anything for us?
Well, I've had several conversations with the chief, as I always do, in regards to items that have been discussed today. I get a lot of people, they're like, oh, how's it being on the board? And the same thing all the time, and I just tell them how wonderful it is and how exciting it is. I'm trying to think. I just had a lot of conversations with the chief, really, in regards to items that we spoke of. So nothing super exciting this month for me that I can remember.
Okay, good. Thank you. Corey?
Well, this month, I think, I can speak for all of us on this, we put time in to do the fire chief's evaluation and give it some serious thought as to what we can offer in the way of not only approval and all, but also guidance for the future. In addition to that, I think maybe because of my nursing background and being on the board, I do have people come up to me asking how are our firefighters doing in terms of COVID, and also then personal safety issues. Is it okay to go here, or should I be wearing a mask there? Those kinds of questions come forward.
Super, great, thank you. It's been a busy month for me. Preparing for the 9/11 presentation, it took up considerable time that I took very seriously. Of course, with the chief's evaluation also, we worked hard on that. Been working with legal and the chief as it relates to contracts, agreements, addendums to long-term leases and so on and so forth. And then lastly, our guidebook that we refer to quite often, especially when we're new on this board, to come up to speed, to figure out how to say what we need to say and when to say it. So it's been a busy month, and but it's all been very rewarding, and I truly enjoy it. So with that said, unless there is anything else that anybody would like to add, this meeting is adjourned.